fast as I go through it in 15 minutes. So there's a handout there for everybody if you want it. I'm Doyle. I am a landscape photographer. That's all I do. Once in a while I do a few portraits, but I try not to. I do landscapes, and that's how I make my living. So, like everybody here, including Neil who took off, my theory with photography is to try to use light. We all see pictures all the time and without saying that they're bad, they're more of a snapshot, more of a capture, more of, people will call them snaps or whatever else you want to call them. It's, you can walk outside, you see a beautiful scene and you take a picture. You're not really qualifying your light. Light is one of the things that all photographers need to know. You need to know your light. Good light, bad light, perfect light, in between. It can all be worked with. And what I do is I work with light. So a lot of people will kind of joke with me that I like a lot of darker images because I can add light in Photoshop or I can add light in post. But I like darker images because it allows me to work with the light. To get my darker images, I use a lot of ND filters. So, starting with the camera, I need to control the light that I'm capturing. I want to control it. I don't want the light to control my image. I want to control the light. I want to know what I'm getting. So most of my work is on tripod, even though it's landscape photography, even though I could be in the middle of the day, because I have this filter on there that is dropping my shutter speeds way down. A good solid tripod right now, it's one of the most important things you can do. Hang a rock on it if you have to. Hang your bag, hang your camera bag on the center pole to hold that thing down. And then learn, and I can't say this enough to everybody in here who wants to do landscape and even some other photos, learn your ND filters. ND filter, neutral density. Neutral density, real simple. It's a gray filter. It's a very dark gray filter. It blocks out light without leaving a color cast. And the cheaper models leave a color cast. Stay away from them. Just like your camera, buy the best ND filter you can buy. The $40 filters, stay away from it. Save your pennies. Work harder. Get an $80 filter or a $100 filter. Or in my case, I like a Stingray filter, which is manufactured from Galen Rowell's friend Dr. Singh that was down here in Bishop. Very expensive filters, but they're worth every penny. I paid thousands of dollars for camera equipment. Pay some decent money for these filters. They're pieces of glass that you put on the front of your camera. We're professionals. Make this as best you can. Make this image the best you can make it. Control this. The ND filter is going to let you control a couple things. It's going to control, first of all, your shutter speed. Second of all, your f-stop. I shoot low ISO almost entirely unless I'm doing pure night stuff. These ND filters allow me to drop my shutter speeds. And I've got 3 or 4 examples up here. So you have some idea of the exit data. Clarity, there's things to look for. There's things not to look for. I look for moving water. The waterfalls that have that look like satin. I love that look. The problem is that everything around them has to be stable. One thing about slow shutter speeds, if the wind or the breeze is blowing the tree, pretty soon you get this soft stuff on the sides. You might get your water, but you might not get what you're looking for. You're looking for very, very soft, smooth water, kind of like the bird pond, like the bird reflections. But yet you want these to be dead on sharp. You want them to be clear and clean. This is a 30-second sunset. Not really long exposure. This is a 10-stop ND filter. This is the Stingray filter again, but only 10 stops. So it's basically what it's doing is taking your exposure bar and moving it down. If you can envision, we have 3 numbers, 1, 2, 3 on each side. This filter moves it down 10 10 places on the dark side, which allows you to bring your f-stops up if you want to, or keep them at f18 in this case, in a sunset with the sun going down, but I still get 30 seconds. My shutter is open, looking at the sunset, 30 seconds. Boom. A couple things that does is it softens these clouds a little because they are moving. It keeps that water mirror-like. Perfectly mirror-like, gives me absolutely perfect reflections. The water line is right there. And that's an effective landscape technique, controlling that light. Under a regular condition, these clouds are blown out. This is gone. This whole section in here is so bright, looking straight at the sun, right after it's gone down, it's hard to get that. But with this ND filter, you can do it. You can control, in your situation, you're here in the good light, you can now control that light a little bit. Next slide. But you can take it another step. This is one of our favorite little Nevada haunts, Rhyolite. Somebody else has already hit on Rhyolite today. But they didn't hit on it like this. This is a blue sky day, big, huge blue sky, with little puffy, we call them Bart Simpson clouds. Little puffy clouds, little guys. And they're just kind of hanging around. I couldn't even tell they were moving. But I wanted a certain image. I wanted a look. So I've got this blue sky day. It's not going to give me the picture I want. I want a certain picture. So again, where am I going to be? I'm at an ISO of 50, so it's middle of the day. Actually, right in the middle of the day. F8, no big deal on that. I have plenty of depth of field. I don't have to worry about that. But what do I have? I have 300 seconds. 5 minutes. Middle of the day. Shutter on my camera, open. Wide open at F8 for 5 minutes. All of a sudden, those little white puffy clouds, they're just kind of Bart Simpson-y. They're still doing that. Only thing is that they're moving across, in 5 minutes, they're moving across my sky. So they're allowing themselves to get stretched out. Now I've got a static subject. The building's not moving. The rocks aren't moving. There are people wandering around in here. Like, seriously. There was a whole bunch of people wandering around. And they're walking along, and I yelled at them, please just don't stop. Please. And I got a big voice, and so they'll do it. It's like, what the hell? And so they're walking around and all that. But you can't even see them because the shutter's wide open. If they stop long enough, they'll start to ghost on me. I'll start to get an outline and get a ghostly figure. And if they stop for too long, of course, they'll start to show up. But when you're in a national park and you've got a whole bunch of people sitting in Oxbow Bend and you're trying to get a picture of the Tetons, if they're walking, if they're moving, you can do this long exposure thing. Boom, boom, boom. You can walk right through it. I've done this a million times. You walk right through in front of the camera sitting there. And you're walking around in front of it. No big deal. You can't see it. Why? Because it's just sitting there. It's so dark. And I have both the 15 stop. This is a 15 stop back one. That was a 15 stop Stingray filter. Not stacked, not a 5 and a 10, but a 15 stop. Very thin, very high quality piece of glass. I've got a pretty high quality camera. Might not be a 5DS, but it's a good camera. Good, a $2,500 lens. I have a $1,000 tripod. I don't want to have a $30 piece of glass on the front. Buy a good filter. This is Stingray. Very, very good piece of glass. I don't use any other filters on the front. I don't use a polarizing filter. I don't put anything else on it because I don't believe in it. Here's my glass, nice and clean, usually, hopefully, and clean my filter, put it on, 300 seconds. Now the next one, Kristen. So, these things are important. Visualize your images. Visualize what you want to take. We're landscape photographers. We're not Chamber of Commerce photographers. Not all the time. I have plenty of Chamber of Commerce images. Thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands. They are nice pictures to look at. They're not landscape art. If you want to produce a landscape art piece, visualize what it is. I'm not saying that these are. I'm just saying in your mind. Visualize your piece. Come up with what you want it to look like. This happened to be the same day that Kristen was taking her black and white out at Fort Churchill. She visualized this way down. She had her clouds coming out the top. Great black and white image. I looked at it and went, whoa, that doesn't work for me. I want more. I want this eventual, this eventual image. Whether it's right or good or not doesn't matter. Only matters that that's what I want. I pre-visualized this and then said, how can I get there? How can I control her light? It's late afternoon, by the way. Sun's still up. It's bright out. If under regular circumstances, you're probably shooting at 1/250th of a second. Instead, here, I'm at 300 seconds again. 5 full minutes, wide open. These little puffy clouds, you saw the clouds. It's real simple. Because I can actually show you now, if I'm not getting overdue my time, I can actually show you what these clouds look like. That's the clouds. Same clouds. Wow. Little puffy clouds, and this is a gorgeous afternoon. Good, really nice clouds. But there's a difference between seeing that or seeing this. Right, wrong, or indifferent, doesn't matter. Find out visualize. Visualize what you want it to see, what you want it to be. But I'm trying to encourage you to look just a little bit beyond. Look outside of your normal comfort zone. Look outside and see this. This happens to be that picture on fracture glass. This is a company called Fracture. It's a piece of tempered glass. Printed, that picture printed on glass. You can have it in the frame, you can put it in the background, you can put light behind it, whatever you want to do. It's very cool stuff. Visualize this. I got to this is the head frame at the Pershing Mine. Up north of Stillwater, south of Safe Haven, south of Lovelock, up in the middle of the mountains up there. Same thing. Low ISO, very low. In this case, because I was actually kind of close, I kind of wanted a certain look. I have an f5, so this is my critical focal length, which is another whole different story. But 446 seconds, 7 minutes, 26 seconds, and I'm pointing. And when I started this, that sun was right about. That sun right here was right about here. Blinding bright. You look at it, if you took the picture, you'd be going, who would take this picture? What idiot, besides Dennis. Dennis would do it. I know that guy. But you can still, you don't have, I'm saying, you don't have to like the image. This happened to be on one of Kippy's picks for the poster right now from Pershing County. But if you don't like it, at least you can say, this is a vision. I went here, I walked around, I looked at it, I said, this is what I'm seeing. Everybody else is taking pictures. I happened to be out that time. I think Lee was there with me, as a matter of fact. I don't remember who else. There was a bunch of us there. Anyway, we're walking around, and everybody's taking pictures, and I'm looking at them. Okay. Everybody, just go on your business. I'm going to sit here for the next 10 minutes, and I ended up taking 3 of these, so I was here for a half an hour. I'm going to sit here and take 3 pictures. And these guys are all out taking all these pictures all the way around. Control your environment. Watch what you're doing. Visualize. First, visualize everything that you want to do.
2 minutes.
And I can't stress it enough. So a few tips, because I'm getting the numbers and I got to get out of here. If you don't have a tripod, don't even try this. This does not work. This does not work out of the window with the bag. You can't do it that long. You can't get that. This is that long exposure stuff. This is real long, and I use a lot of it. The filters, and I will have them up here if you want to look through it. The 15 stop, you can hold it up to that light and completely black it out. The 10 stop, you can see a little bit through it. You can look at the sun. Focusing. The technical part of it, I'm going to try to stay away from a little bit. There's a technical side of this about how to focus it when the filters are on. The easiest way to start, focus first. Get your picture, visualize it, take the autofocus off, lock it all down, don't change your aperture, don't change anything. Get it just where you want it, then put the filter on it and take a picture with everything off. Because a lot of times, with a 15 stop, you cannot focus on live view. On a 10 stop, if everything is good, you can focus by changing to live view. Attach the filter, cover, oh, you always have to cover your viewfinder in the back. So take your thumb, boom, 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 I'm getting ready to take the picture. Thumb comes up, and I do it automatically. Fingers over here, unless I'm using a switch, but if I'm using a switch, cover the finger, you have to cover it because there's enough light coming in the back of your eyepiece to make it so that it won't work. You can't get your shutter to go. Anyway, that's for when you try it. Cover the view box, bulb mode, anything over 30 seconds. 30 seconds you can do from your cameras. Most of your cameras. If you go over 30, you have to have a switch. Lots of switches out there. Pluto trigger, intervoltometers from Canon, Nikon has an intervoltometer. There's 2 or 3. There's Ranger has a switch. Any kind of switches that you can get, you can add numbers to. Do your homework on that. Look for conditions that show your movement. Water falling is awesome. Cars moving. You can sit and take cars moving with lights in the dim, and you get all those red streaks and all those streaks going across. But trees blowing in the wind, no. Grass blowing underneath your waterfall, no. Don't do that because it looks fuzzy and it looks like you didn't know what you're doing. Watch your static compose. Static figures, buildings, tree with skies going across, awesome. Waterfalls, great. Get back a little bit so you don't get the little bit of movement on the edges. Work great. Silky satin, wonderful pieces. And that's waterfalls with hot pixels. Oh, this is real important. These are real long exposures. You get a lot of hot pixels. There's ways of getting around it. Usually when you convert from RAW to JPEG, that does away with a lot of them. Sometimes you just got to sit there for 20 minutes and take hot pixels out. Sometimes there are ways. There's a couple programs now that are really good with hot pixels. I don't use them. I just take them out by hand now. Most of them are, you don't have to worry about the ones that are in the white usually. You only have to worry about the ones in the dark. They're the ones you can see if you're going to print. So, yeah, absolutely have fun. I mean, that's the only reason to do it is just to have fun. And I will take questions. Yes.
How are you, when you're using the anti-filter, how are you arriving at those long exposures? Are you calculating
Great
what
question.
the regular...
Can you repeat the question as well, please?
No. That's a really good question. As far as I know, there's only one way. And it's because I've done enough of them to know. You can go online and you can look. There's a couple apps.
Dennis, repeat the question.
What? Oh, okay. The question. Sorry, everybody. I know I can hear myself really well. The question is, how do I arrive at the length of exposures that you were seeing? How do you come up with it? And my answer was really easy. Experience. I'm sorry. I mean, that's really the answer because nobody else is going to be able to tell you. There is on Facebook, there's a group called Long Exposure Photography. It's run by a real good guy, real knowledgeable guy that's a friend of mine called Ken Lee. His name's Ken Lee, and he runs it. They usually post their exit data. There's a lot of long exposures on there. I didn't say that right. There's a lot of people who do long exposure photography on there. They will give you the data. Start with one and play with it. You can get these images. There's a whole bunch of benefits here that I don't have time to go through. This deepens your color. So the color that's hitting your sensors in all of our cameras, even cell phones, those pions, those pieces of color, those tiny pieces of color light called pions that are hitting your sensor. If you click your shutter and it's 1/250th of a second, you get X amount of pions hitting that sensor. I click a shutter and it's 5 minutes. Those things are still hitting, even though they're being reduced in strength and they're being reduced in velocity and all that. They're still hitting there, so my colors can be deeper. So when you look at this, you go, that wasn't that color. Come on, don't start with me. It actually was deeper colors than this. I knocked this back 50%. It was so deep I wouldn't print it. Amazing how deep the colors get with an ND filter. Good ND filters.
Do you have an assortment of ND filters, like 4, 8, 15, or something
I
like
do.
that?
I have, and there's 3 that I recommend. 6 first. 6 gets you into it. 10 is soft, that really soft, silky water that you get, that really beautiful, silky waterfalls coming over that you love. That's a 10 stop. And then for the really good clouds, 15 stop.
Oh, okay.
And yes, you can stack those. I don't. It's a good place to start. To stack a 10 and a 6 to give you a 16. That will give you those 5-minute exposures to play with. Are they going to be perfect? Probably not. I still recommend at that point going back to a single ND filter. I have a 2, a 4, a 6, a 10, and a 15. They now make a 20. When I got my 15, it was the longest. They now make a 20. I don't know how. I don't know how I would do that.
Okay, you guys, I'm sorry, but if we can just do questions afterwards and stuff like that, I just want to make sure that everybody else has their 15 minutes too to be able to explain their things.
I'm done.
Thank you so much.